Why is this not going? Hello, hello, everyone. Wait for everyone to get their cameras on. All right. Thank you so much for joining our webinar. My name is Melissa Figueroa. I'm the Chief of Communications for the California High-Speed Rail Authority. We are so pleased to have everyone join us today. This is our kickoff for the relaunch, rebrand of I Will Ride, our student engagement chapter for the authority. So we're thrilled to have everyone on the call, even from our youngest participants here. 7-year-olds, very, very supportive of high-speed rail. We are going to kick it off with a quick poll question for those of you who are on the call. Do you want to go ahead and answer the questions on your screen? How familiar are you with the high-speed rail system in the United States and throughout the world? Looks like we have some basic level knowledge, which is good. It's a good start. We hope by the end of this conversation you'll have even more knowledge of the program and what we're doing here and how we want to include you in that process. Give it another couple seconds and then we will turn that poll off. All right. Okay, I can pull that poll down. Okay. Let's see, is it still up? It's still up on my screen. We're going to share the results. Okay, there we go. All right, so let me quickly introduce the folks on the call today. We have a packed hour, so we're going to move quickly. We have Brian Kelly, our Chief Executive Officer for the High-Speed Rail Authority. He will be first up to speak. We have Nancy Miller, who's a Vice Chair for our board. Very excited to have Nancy with us today to bring some perspective on what our board wants to do to engage with students around the state. We have Jacqueline Castro, who's the Director of Student Engagement for the Authority. We have Augie Blancas, who is one of our public information officers in the Central Valley, and Keelan, who is a longtime supporter of the project, starting from the I Will Ride chapters, now happily employed at the Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development, was once an executive fellow, so he brings a really unique perspective to the project that we know you're going to enjoy hearing about. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Vice Chair Miller. If you want to say a few remarks to the group, Nancy, we'd love to hear from you.
Sure. First, I'd like to welcome all you students. It's great to be involved in a webinar like this because you may not know this, but you are a large statistical percentage of people that ride transit. And also, you're our future, and high-speed rail is a project, as you know, a large project that is aimed at future transportation needs in this state, and it's also would be the first high-speed rail project in the entire United States. So it's a very exciting project, at least for me on the board. And also, you are potentially a part of our workforce in the future. This project won't be built tomorrow, and it won't be built next year, and it won't even be built 2 years from now. So it's a really exciting long-term infrastructure project that I'm very excited to be in, and I'm very excited to join with you as students to learn more about the project today. Just a little bit about being on the vice chair of a board. This is a board of 9 members, and 5 are appointed by the governor, 2 by the speaker of the pro tem, that's basically our Senate, and then 2 by the speaker of the assembly. And we all work together, and politically it's a very diverse group, and it's a diverse group in terms of age, sex, ethnicity, and all of that. So we try to represent California, but we also don't have that many young people, obviously, on the board. So we like opportunities like this to get your input and your involvement. I just want to tell one little story. Kind of as a student, I remember thinking on things like I would do like this in conferences. I would always wonder, you know, how did that person get there? How did you end up from a student getting to be, you know, a vice chair or executive director of something like high-speed rail? And I just want to say, you sometimes lay the seeds when you're in school by being involved, just going to things outside of classes. I went to a city council meeting because we were trying to get an extra bus route for a route that went to my college. I was an impoverished student, like I'm sure many of you are. And it opened my eyes to go to a city council meeting. This was in San Francisco. That was number one. And number two, just to talk about a policy and actually be listened to. And you would be surprised how adults will listen to students' voices. So thank you so much for joining.
Great.
Thank you so much, Nancy. And we're
Sure.
going to turn it over to Brian now, and you're going to give a short presentation.
I am, thank you. And I want to join my vice chair, Nancy Miller, in welcoming everybody to this webinar. I'm going to give a brief presentation about sort of the status of this project right now. But before I get into that, I do want to echo just something Nancy said that I think is really important. And that is, you know, your generation is really the generation that's leading and pushing California to, you know, do things better. And what I mean by that is I've now spent 25 years in transportation policy here in California. And I moved to this project in part because it was the singular project that is of such a size and scope and so transformational in what we're trying to do that it combines all these really important elements of what transportation investments need to accomplish in California, not just today, but particularly for the next generation. And that is, yes, of course, they have to move people better, more efficiently. We definitely want to make mobility improvements. And if you think about high-speed rail and the idea that we will ultimately move people from San Francisco to Los Angeles and Anaheim in less than 3 hours, when you consider that today that's a 12 or 13 hour train ride and it's a 7 or 8 hour car ride on a good day. On some days that could be a 8 or 9 hour car ride. But that we want to offer an opportunity to move people between those places in less than 3 hours, which is just a game changer on how people will move in California. The second thing that's important about our investments, not just mobility, but that our investments also need to be real good on environmental scores and environmental purposes. Particularly, this is particularly true as transportation investments need to be a big part of our strategy to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and to operate and grow in a climate change world. And so making investments that are strong on the environmental side are very important. I'm very proud to say we have a whole report we put out on this called our sustainability report that we just released in October. But this is without question one of the cleanest, most sustainable transportation projects anywhere in the country, and probably for its size, I would say anywhere in the world, not just in what we're achieving during construction to make sure that our net emissions are a reduction even during construction. Once we're in operations, in full operations, you know, we will be the equivalent of taking almost 500,000 vehicles off the roadways in terms of emission benefits. So environmentally, I'm very proud of what we're doing. We're encouraging more denser development around transit stations that could reduce vehicle miles traveled and really build communities around a community hub like a rail station. And so that's part of our long-term objective too. So you got mobility, you have environmental, and then of course the third thing that's really important is you want these transportation investments to result in economic development. And with this project, truly high-speed electrified rail in California, we are trying to create new industries. We want to ultimately, it'd be great if we see trains built here. We see engineering expertise through our universities that come to this project and help us figure out how to do things better, more efficient, and really be on the front edge of a new technology to move people in the state. And so I'm very excited about that. And you know, one of the best things we're doing right now is just by expanding our job sites in the Valley. We are under construction on 119 miles right now. You know, we're providing more and more job opportunity for families in the Central Valley, and that's really important. And the more we expand this project, the more we'll expand that economic opportunity. So mobility, environmental, economic, these are the kinds of things that certainly today and certainly in the future generations want to see out of transportation investment. So I'm proud of that. Let's go to the next slide here. This is just a map of kind of the status of the project as of 2020. And what I really want to emphasize to you all is, right now, the move to electrified high-speed rail is well underway in California. And I think more so than any other state in the nation. As this map shows, looking at the green, the green highlighted segments in the Bay Area, we are now electrifying about 51 miles of what's called the Caltrain corridor between San Francisco and San Jose. And ultimately, that corridor, that electrified corridor, will also handle high-speed trains, R trains, getting into San Francisco and coming up the peninsula. So that's construction work that's underway now on electrifying the Caltrain part for their short-term benefit, and then our longer-term benefit as we use that same corridor to bring our service into the Bay Area. That green line in the middle of the state there, the Central Valley, that's 171 miles connecting the cities of Merced, Fresno, into the South Bakersfield, three of the fastest growing cities in the region, and actually in the state of California. But that 171 miles right now, as I'm speaking to you, we have 119 of that under construction today. And so that is advancing in the Central Valley. And then we hope to add in the couple of years as we go forward an extension to Merced and the extension all the way into downtown Bakersfield so that we have a full 171 miles under construction and the beginning of an operating service that is electrified high-speed rail service connecting Fresno, Bakersfield, and Merced to start, and then ultimately connecting into the Bay Area and further south to the LA basin. The last point I'd make on this slide, well, two, I guess. One is the blue line at the bottom that's kind of moving from east to west here. That is a private sector entity, Brightline Trains, who is proposing to build an electrified high-speed rail system, largely using private investment, but also utilizing public rights-of-way to construct this really in the median of the I-15 corridor in Southern California. That is a project that they are moving forward with approvals on, satisfying additional, public sector elements on that in terms of access to low-cost capital. They're working to issue bonds, which will probably move into 2021, and finalizing other elements of their planning here to get that project going as well. So when you add all that up, you see there's 350 miles in California, whether it's public or private, of electrified high-speed rail advancing. And that's really important. The dotted lines on this map are where we are still advancing the environmental work. We are looking to clear all of the San Francisco into LA and Anaheim stretches to get those all environmentally cleared by the end of 2022. And so if you flip to the next slide here, this is what this would look like in just a couple of years. We would hope to be in full construction on all three of those segments, 130 miles, 171 miles, and the 51 in the Bay Area, so that 350 miles is in full construction of high-speed rail in California. And you'll see we will have wrapped up the environmental clearance from San Francisco all the way to Anaheim, LA and Anaheim for what we call the phase one of the project. And remember, our goal here is to build a system that connects San Francisco to LA and Anaheim in a time frame of 3 hours or less. And so this is the work that we have to do to get there. And environmentally clearing those segments is really important because it enables us then to do the next step toward construction. And there's no doubt we're going to need more funding to get the construction done, but it looks like we've got enough to really advance all that environmental work to clear that system in the next 2 years and do a bunch of pre-construction work in all of these segments that will help us get to construction ultimately. So we're excited about where we are, and that's a snapshot of where we're going with the electrified high-speed rail in California. Next slide. Let's see, this is a slide that really reflects the activity that we have underway right now in the Central Valley. As I mentioned, we have 119 miles under construction today, 32 active construction sites, 5 completed structures in 2020, and virtually every couple of weeks we're opening a new structure. We have a total of 93 structures that we have to build. I think we're up to approaching 50 of those now that are getting started, getting close to getting started. 119 miles of guideway that needs to be opened. We're approaching 80 miles of that opened or getting underway now. And so this is work that we hope to finish in the next couple of years, this 119-mile stretch. And again, you can see if you're traveling on like I-99 in the Central Valley, there's demonstrations of this work and progressing really all throughout the valley. And you can see it every day that you're down there. I mentioned earlier the economic importance of the work we do. You see that our investments to date have provided about $1 billion in labor income, of economic output of $3 billion for the dollars that we've invested to date. And importantly, we've dispatched now, we're starting to approach 5,000 workers that have been dispatched to our job sites from the date we started construction back in 2015. And so we're very proud about that. And I would just, to add to this, the last 18 months when I started here, our daily rate of how many workers were out on the job sites was at about 215 or so. And just last month, we're now approaching 1,100. So every day, there's some 1,100 people out on these construction sites doing the work and advancing construction. And I'm particularly proud of that because it's in one of the most disadvantaged economic areas of California. And I'm very proud that this project is paying a livable wage and supporting families, putting food on the table, paying rents, helping people get through school and all of those things through our program. And so I'm very, very proud of the expansion of work that we're providing to the Central Valley. I also mentioned the environmental elements of this project, and that's the other important part. We have roughly a 97% recycle rate on the materials that we are utilizing in this project, or the materials that we are taking from the project through demolition and other things. We recycle virtually everything that we use. We are requiring our construction equipment to use tier 4 emissions level equipment, which is really the cleanest kind of construction equipment available. And we offset any emissions we have in construction with things like tree planting, which we have done. Thousands of trees have now been planted in the Central Valley to offset emissions. And we also buy land and conserve parcels of land as part of our mitigation to the impacts we have from construction. We also set aside land and protect endangered species or other natural habitat that need to be protected through a very aggressive conservation program. So I'm very proud of all the work that we do. And even once we get past construction into operations, we have a commitment to be a net zero sort of organization. We're going to operate our trains with renewable powered electricity, and our stations will bring the very best and the very latest of technology to bear to assure that we are as sustainable as we can possibly be going forward. Next slide. Now I did mention, and I really did emphasize the amount of investments that we are making in the Central Valley, because that is where we have construction underway. So a lot of our dollars have gone to the Central Valley, but it's also true we are investing in all regions of California. For example, we've committed $441 million out of our budget to renovate the Los Angeles Union Station. There are a couple of good reasons to do this. It's a great facility. It's historic in many ways, and it's at least in my sense, it's a bygone era kind of building in Los Angeles of another time. But we have this ability to really expand that station and allow for increased transit ridership and transit services in the LA basin, not from our service, but from services like Metrolink, the Losan train service run through an Amtrak contract, and other local transit services in LA that can feed into this transit station. And then, of course, we want to see the station renovated in a way so they can accommodate high-speed rail. So there's a lot of reasons to do that, expand transit capability. Many of you know the Olympics will be held in Los Angeles in 2028. So getting this work done not only accommodates high-speed rail in the long term, but also provides some benefits toward making sure that we're providing more transportation alternatives as the world really comes to Los Angeles in just a few years. We're also investing heavily in clearing the environmental review for expanded passenger rail in the LA to Anaheim and Burbank corridor, not just for us, but again, for high-speed rail, Metrolink and Losan. We're doing a lot of work to clear that environmental segment for expanded services for all rail operators down there. We're investing $77 million in an important grade separation safety project. And our bond bill also provided $389 million for a series of other transit projects down there that we call connectivity projects. So Southern California, we're investing about $1.3 billion right now into broad transit improvements, getting ready and preparing for high-speed rail to be a part of that community. Next slide. It's similar in Northern California as well, where we're investing $1.6 billion in a lot of the same things, environmental reviews that help just not us, but also shared transit partners in the corridor up there. Caltrain is mostly the partner there. We do some work on working with others on what the ultimate Diridon station will look like in San Jose, ultimately getting to a train station being part of the Transbay terminal in San Francisco. So there's work that we're doing there to get it benefits, not just us, but other transit providers too. Our big investment in the Bay Area right now is helping Caltrain electrify its corridor between San Francisco and San Jose. We're providing about $715 million for that project, and even more when you consider some other dollars that we are bringing into that. And again, like in Los Angeles, we are funding partners on an important grade separation project down there called the San Mateo Grade Separation. And again, there's several other dollars out of our bond bill that is funding transit connectivity projects in the Bay Area. Next slide. So again, so again, in totality, the focus of our investment today is largely in the valley where we are in construction. We want to get that construction work done, that 119 miles done, explore ways to expand further to Bakersfield and north to Merced, where we would connect with other transit operators and really get the ridership number in the valley way up from where it is now. And importantly, just provide a good alternative to driving. There are not a ton of transit options that are good, convenient, seamless, and well connected in the valley right now, but we are working closely with our San Joaquin JPA partner who runs the Amtrak service down there. They run the ACE service that comes into the Central Valley from the Bay Area. And we see a potential to invest in that corridor to provide higher speed electrified rail and connect with those services so that people can really get in and out of the valley without relying solely on a vehicle. It can be done quickly, efficiently, and most importantly, cleanly. So I'm pushing hard, certainly in my position here with others we work with, to move California beyond the era of diesel when it comes to passenger rail and transit services. And we're really proud of the work we're doing in that area. And so we're going to keep pressing, keep pushing hard to get this work done, and look for ways to expand our service, not just from Merced to Bakersfield, but even beyond the valley to the Bay Area, ultimately, and into that Southern California region. So that's a quick snapshot of where we are. I'm happy to participate in this today. Again, this project, as Nancy Miller said earlier, is as much about the future as it is about today, if not more so. We're doing a lot of work today to get this thing built and operable and things like that, but it's really about what the next generation will do with it. And it's the right project for California. It's the right project for this nation. And I'm very proud of the work that we're doing for the future of California. So again, happy to be here, happy to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brian. And we are getting a number of questions via YouTube and also via the Q&A function on Zoom. So either way, please feel free to start sending in your questions. We have some time allocated at the end of the hour to get to those. So we will keep moving along. Next, we're going to turn to Augie Blancas and Jacqueline Castro. And I want to really commend the two of them. They have done a tremendous job of taking this once student-driven initiative and really bringing it into a more statewide holistic approach to engagement with our colleges and universities around the state and our high school students around the state. So I really want to thank the two of them for the work they put into this, and I'm so excited to see where it goes from here. So Augie, Jacqueline, the floor is yours.
Sure. Thank you, Melissa. And hi, everybody. My name is Augie Blancas. I'm a public information officer here based in the Central Valley. And I am actually a graduate of Fresno State and Fresno City College, hopefully have some alumni in the house. Part of my job and what I always like to tell people is I really do have a fun job, and I get to tell the story about high-speed rail, the construction that's happening across 119 miles that we have under construction. I get to tell the stories of the workers that are out in the field helping make this possible. And I get to see the construction happening up close and personal. I drive down 99 every day. So I get to see, the Cedar Viaduct. I get to see the San Joaquin River Viaduct. You can see more information about those structures on our website, buildhsr.com, if you're interested. And another fun part of my job is I get to engage with young people. I get to talk with high school and college students about I Will Ride. So I Will Ride was designed to inform, engage, inspire, and connect students to the nation's first high-speed rail system that's currently under construction. And I Will Ride was started just by students like you who believe in our project, who support transportation, who support a cleaner environment and a sustainable, environmentally friendly mode of transportation. These students that you'll see in the next slide, please. Thank you. The students that you'll see here have participated in events like our I Will Ride Day, and they've got to explore some of our construction sites and actually got to go on these once-in-a-lifetime tours to see, again, that construction up close and personal. These students have, these students have gone as far as starting campus clubs or starting I Will Ride chapters at their universities or colleges. And these students might be engineering or construction and management students, but there's really room for everybody. I'm a journalism student, and there are plenty of opportunities to learn about how we communicate or help tell the story about a construction project. There are many opportunities for students in all fields of study. And again, we've had chapters started at Fresno State, Fresno City College, CSU Bakersfield, Berkeley, and UC Merced. Hopefully we have some students from there on this webinar. But now that we're living in a virtual world, we kind of had to come about doing this a little bit differently. And now it seems like we're even more equipped to expand I Will Ride and expand the initiative across the state, or maybe even the nation for that matter. Next slide, please. I Will Ride, provides a number of really unique opportunities for students. Again, we're living in a virtual world at the moment, so we have plenty. There are the opportunities for webinars to allow us to connect students with other high-speed rail professionals. When we can get to be face-to-face and connect with each other once again, we have campus presentations where we can actually, be in person, talk about the project, maybe even bring an engineer or some high-speed rail professional to talk to a class, a group of students, maybe even some of the teachers about the project as well. I, for one, just love student engagement. I love to go out and talking to them one-on-one. And so if there are any opportunities to get back on a campus when we can, definitely let me or Jacqueline know so that we can maybe get on campus once again. We've helped students with jobs and with internships, fellowships, and again, the funnest part, getting to see the construction up close and personal. It's one thing to see the project in pictures, and we have plenty of those. We have plenty of pictures, plenty of video, but it's another thing to see it up close and personal. And when we're able to do that once again, I'm more than willing to be your tour guide onto some of our construction sites. With that being said, there are plenty of opportunities with I Will Ride, but I'm sure you're asking how you can get involved, and Jacqueline has more information about that.
Thanks, Augie, for that description of the I Will Ride program. And I just want to note that since Augie's gotten to the High Speed Rail Authority, he's been out there taking students on tours to the construction sites, and he's been in the classroom. And so he's been really big on student engagement. And so just want to recognize that and echo what Melissa said earlier. And now that we kind of have a description of what the I Will Ride program is, I'm going to talk a little bit about how to get involved and how to sign up for the program. So as you see on the slide, it's very easy to sign up. You just email iwillride@hsr.ca.gov with 4 things: your name, your email, and then let us know what best describes you. Are you a student? Are you a student and minor, a teacher, a professor, or do you work with students in another capacity? And this will help us send you the appropriate notifications, right? If we're going to have a student event, if we're going to have an event for professors and such. And then the last thing is state that you would like to receive I Will Ride notifications. So once you send us that email, we'll put you in the system and then we'll send you a confirmation. And I recommend that you also check this out on our I Will Ride page on our hsr.california.gov website. These steps are listed there, and you'll also be able to see our privacy statement or our privacy policy. If you can go on to the next slide. Okay, so you signed up, you sent the email, you got the confirmation, and now what? So because we are living in this virtual atmosphere, we decided what's the best way that we can connect with students, given all these things that are going on right now throughout the world. And so our #1 form of communication with students and with folks who work with students is going to be through email for now. So we have a monthly e-blast that goes out with great information. And so when you sign up for I Will Ride, you will get this monthly e-blast. This is where we will have all our high-speed rail updates, all of our really cool construction updates. Augie mentioned it a little bit earlier, but there is some awesome video, drone content, pictures, so much that's going on in the valley, and we have a lot of it captured. And so all that information, all those pictures will be sent to you through this email. We will also have more notifications for upcoming webinars. So this is the first of, I hope, many webinars to come to connect you with the project. And then the third thing that's the highlight of these monthly e-blasts, and this is the question that I get often, is how do I get an internship, or how do I find employment opportunities with high-speed rail? And so we'll have a student opportunity section in that email every month, and that'll highlight any internships available with the High-Speed Rail Authority or contractors who are also working on the high-speed rail project. And in addition, we try our best to find scholarships available throughout the state to just notify our students, especially those who are interested in a career in transit. And so that's kind of our e-blast that we have monthly. And we'll also be sending different notifications if we have a big event that happened at High Speed Rail, or we have a cool video to show, or if we have a webinar coming up. So other ways to get involved with the authority, with the High Speed Rail Authority, is one, you can start your own I Will Ride chapter on your campus. And that's kind of the heart of I Will Ride. It's how it began. Students on these different campuses got together and said, you know, I support high speed rail. I want to learn more. I want to get involved with the authority. And so you can start your own group on your campus, and we can help you with information and resources, but ultimately you would be the lead of that organization on your campus. You can attend a board meeting. So Nancy Miller discussed a little bit about her role on the board. You can attend these meetings. Right now they're online and they're virtual, and they're actually really easy to access. We have a board meeting about once a month, if not once every 2 months. And this is a really cool way to get engaged with the project and learn about, you know, policy decisions that are being made. And then lastly, it's check out our 2 websites, hsr.ca.gov and buildhsr.com. BuildHSR.com has some awesome content for construction updates, so I'd recommend you check that out. And there's some great information on our hsr.california.gov website. Next slide, please. Of course, another way to stay engaged with the High Speed Rail project is our social media. So we're all on our phones a lot of the time of the day, so why not check out some High Speed Rail content? We post all of these project updates on these pages. And I'm going to brag a little bit about our social media folks, because there's some pretty cool stuff that goes on there, and it's a good way to stay engaged with the project. They're not listed here, but we also have a LinkedIn page and a YouTube page that has great content as well. So I'd recommend that you all follow us on social media to stay engaged. Next slide. And a little bit of extra details about the High-Speed Rail I Will Ride program. So it's intended to be for high school and college age students, except, well, if you are a minor and you are in high school, we just ask that you please complete this parent consent form. You can find this on our webpage, on the I Will Ride webpage on the hsr.ca.gov. Fill this out, have a parent guardian signature, and then email it back to us on that I Will Ride email. And if you are, you work with students in K through 8, we ask that you would just email iwillride@hsr.california.gov if you want a classroom presentation or engagement with the authority. But the I Will Ride program is intended for high school and college age students. And that's all I have for you today. And I'm excited to share with you our next speaker for the webinar. So Keelan was a part of I Will Ride when he was at UC Berkeley, and since then, he was part of a fellowship program that I also did last year, the Executive Fellowship Program for the Capital Fellows Program at Sacramento State. So he's worked in a few different capacities, and he's a supporter of the project. And I'd love for him to share what his experience was with I Will Ride and kind of where he is now. And I also want to add, I'm a UC Merced alumni, so go Bobcats.
Oh, great. Thanks so much. So hi, everyone. Hope you're all doing well and staying healthy right now. Like I said, I was an alumni to the I Will Ride chapter at UC Berkeley. I graduated with a degree in political science in 2016, so a couple of years ago, and was always really interested in transportation and climate change and economic development. So I was very excited about this project because there's really something for everybody to be excited about in terms of making California better. So I joined my junior year of college and found it to be very exciting. I met a lot of friends who were involved in the sustainability community in Berkeley, but were specifically geared in on transportation. So made some new friends and was able to go on field trips throughout the Bay Area to the terminus of the high-speed rail in San Francisco. So that was great because it really showed me how complex government programs come together, how you work with contractors to build particular projects, how you deal with political changes going on in the federal government and the state government, just how that comes together to make a project work. And I think for me personally, I changed majors very late in my time in college, in my junior year. So I didn't have the opportunity to do an internship with my local assembly person or work for Caltrans, something like that during a summer. So I, especially with the changes going on politically in the United States, I was really interested in climate change and was really inspired by the leadership in California. So I wanted to know how to get involved, particularly with so little time left in college. So I Will Ride really acted as a great opportunity. I got to meet folks that work in the state government and just learned all about the complex issues, again, facing the state. And and through that, I worked in the climate change space after graduating, primarily on zero emission vehicles. So, your electric cars. And I applied to a fellowship program at the governor's office through the Capital Fellows Program. And I included information on the high-speed rail in my application, and it was more unique and helped me, I believe, get this fellowship at the governor's office. And I know I met Augie during my fellowship when he gave us a tour of the line. So that was really exciting. So I got to see it in San Francisco and in the Central Valley. Through my fellowship, I got a job at the governor's office of business and economic development, working on the zero emission vehicle market in California. So how do we electrify all transportation in the state? You've seen the executive order about passenger vehicles becoming zero emission after 2035 for new sales, and how that also affects the medium and heavy duty truck sector, how it affects rail. I've been deeply involved in that coming out of my previous job, out of my fellowship. And for me, my first experience all started through I Will Ride. It's the first time I got to kind of take a bite out of the apple of state government service, and just really put me in the direction of wanting to work for the state. And now, I'm 27 now, and I just decided I'm going to continue working for state service. I love to make a whole career out of working on transportation and climate change issues, and feel that I Will Write helped put me in that direction. So I'm happy to talk to anybody about working for state service at any point. You always feel free to get in touch with me, but I just recommend for anyone who's interested in these issues to get in touch with I Will Write, join the organization, start a chapter. It will make a big difference in your college career, and you'll meet great people, and you might get a cool shirt or swag about trains and high-speed rail. So definitely recommend you get involved. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I just love your enthusiasm. I remember when you were a fellow, and just, you are what state service is about. So thank you so much for being a part of this. I want to start some questions here. I know, Brian, you have worked around the legislature for a better part of 25 years, and Nancy as well. And I know that when we hear students testify or give input or meet with members, it carries some weight. And Nancy, you touched on this a little bit at the beginning, but from your perspective now, what does it mean, and what mark does it leave when students take the time to learn and to engage in public service?
Make sure you unmute. There you go.
Yeah, sorry. I'm going first, right, Brian?
Yes.
So believe it or not, your politicians will listen to you. And I know there's a lot of sometimes question about that, but it is really true. Just think about their world. Their world is a lot of meetings and staff people like you saw today talking. But when the outside world, someone that's not connected either through staff or maybe a lobbyist that we call people that actually regularly interact with politicians, when they hear from students, it honestly, it's not only is it fresh and new, it's also a different perspective than they hear. So it's really important because you do have a very unique perspective, and it resounds with people. So I encourage you to do it.
I would just add that, I think if you look certainly in the later part of the 20th century, the student movements have been on the front end of important change in this country. And, clearly on big issues like whether or not we're in a certain war or what we're doing on the civil rights question. I mean, the student movement was a key part of those pushes for change. And I would just say here, look, your generation, in my view, has a better sense, and this is an old guy talking, so I could say this, but you've got a better sense of the importance and the urgency of policy aimed at climate change, and a very good understanding that it's going to be more about your generation than maybe mine. I think your advocacy to make sure that we do things better, we do things smarter, that we still have to have a growing economy and a growing society, that we want to provide opportunity for people. And in my view, you're not choosing between clean, green, and economic opportunity. You're ensuring you achieve all. And so I just say this because in my view, this project is about that. I said at the outset, this is the most transformative transportation project I've ever seen in terms of the mobility changes it could bring, the way we are approaching this from a sustainability and environmental perspective, and the economic advancement. It's all wrapped up into one thing. And I just think on these points, and this project will be operational more during your generation than mine. And so I just think that, and there's nothing easy about this project because it is about the future. This project is about tomorrow. And so I just think you are the right voices for advocating for that change and pushing the state of California policymakers this way. I have no doubt about how important I think it is, but the benefits of this are really going to be to you and the generations that follow. And I just think you are the right voices to move us that way. So I agree with everything Nancy said. We just say, this is your time. This is your
I love
time.
it. Thank you. So let's start going through some of the other Q&A that's been sent in. The first question is regarding Tutor Perini and whether there is a way, what's the process for awarding construction contracts and whether existing contractors can be re-awarded other future contracts. Can we talk through that a little bit?
Sure. I mean, all of our contracts go through an open bidding process. I think, this is, again, I've been on this project for 2.5 years. The contracts for the initial construction were awarded some time ago, 7 years ago in the case of Tutor Perini, and I think 6 and 5 years ago on the subsequent ones. And so it's an open process. It's a process where teams, and in this case, joint ventures, get together to not just have California entities be part of this, but also international entities that have expertise with high-speed rail per se. And we go through a very public process in scoring and ultimately making recommendations to our board on who the most qualified elements are, or entities are in this process. I would say, I know there's a lot of controversy around where the project has been. In part, I tried to demystify that and simplify that in a lot of ways by reminding folks that, the authority was awarded some federal dollars back then, and they had to spend it by a date certain, and that sort of compelled us to rush probably a little too quickly on how quickly we got into construction. And some of the issues we've had since that time, I think, are largely tied to making sure that we can catch up our work on the ground so contractors can advance the work. And so, I think going forward, we will be more methodical. We'll be smarter. I think in some ways we won't have the pressure of having to get rush to get things in construction. And while I want to move the projects forward, clearly, I think there's a benefit in making sure that we execute these subsequent contracts in a way where we know exactly what needs to be done. We don't get to construction until our right-of-way is in hand, our utilities are relocated. And there's been good and bad with what came before. The good is we moved very quickly, and we've seen great economic opportunity in the Valley because of that, but that's important. I think the downside is we assumed a little bit too much risk because we got into construction a little bit before we had some of the pre-construction work done. I don't think we'll make that latter mistake again, and all contractors will be able to compete in an open and fair way to bid on future contracts.
All right. This speaks to the statewide rail plan and some of the concepts that we've laid out in prior business plans. Brian or Nancy, can you speak to how high-speed rail encourages other regions and cities to invest in their regional transit systems that could eventually connect to our program?
Well, I'll take a shot at this. I think the best example is probably our joint investments in the Bay Area. It comes to mind quickly, and that is, we are joint investors with Caltrain on electrifying that corridor, not just for the benefit of them moving away from diesel and providing commuter rail through cleaner electrified service, but then ultimately us using that same corridor to bring our service as an interregional service, connecting the Bay Area with the Central Valley and ultimately Los Angeles, but using that same corridor in an electrified way so that we can bring our service into the Bay Area too. So that's an example of we put money on the table, they put money on the table, the federal government put money on the table, and suddenly you're in construction on electrifying 51 miles in the Bay Area. The other thing the Bay Area just did recently that we applaud was the Metropolitan Transportation Commission there just did their blueprint for the next 40 years of investment, and they held aside several $1 billion to say, let's hold this aside to help make some joint investments that will improve both Caltrain, but also allow high-speed rail to get into the Silicon Valley region from the Central Valley. Now, I think my job and our job and my recommendation to my board will be that we make investments to award that that kind of local effort, and that we help pursue federal money to make sure we can get important strategic investments done with the help of local contributions like that. So that's where I see it. I also am convinced that, remember, we're building a system that connects regions of the state of California. But I am convinced that when people enter regions, as we've seen in other countries around the world, if they enter a new region on a high-speed rail system, they're much more likely to use local transit services than if they drive into those regions. And that's one of the big benefits we will have. People coming into these various regions on high-speed rail will be looking to transfer conveniently to those local systems to get to their ultimate destination. So I think that's a big part of what we'll do.
Can you talk a little bit about our work with Brightline and Express West and our eventual connection in Palmdale?
Yes. So Brightline is the entity that recently, I want to say just a couple of years ago, bought out the prior owner of the proposed train service between Las Vegas and Southern California. And, under the bond law in California that gave us direction to build our system, we're really limited in being the north to south entity. We're going to connect San Francisco to LA and Anaheim and ultimately Sacramento to San Diego. But they are sort of the east to west line, where they are interested in pursuing and building and developing this Las Vegas to Southern California stretch. And so they have proposed using private dollars for the investment. One of the big changes they made that we applauded and really helped us become partners on this is they moved away. Originally, that project was going to be a diesel service going as fast as 120 miles per hour. But now they've moved to electric, going as high as 185 miles per hour. And so that really got us excited, that change. And then one of our key stops in northern LA County is in Palmdale. And that is one of the transfer points that Brightline sees connecting both Palmdale to Las Vegas and then further south, Rancho Cucamonga to Las Vegas as well. But that Palmdale station provides a place where high-speed rail, Metrolink, and Brightline will all come together at a single-use station in Palmdale. So we could be feeding people ultimately going to Las Vegas from Northern California through our connection at Palmdale. Metrolink could be feeding it through people on Metrolink coming up from the LA Basin to Palmdale. And then, of course, they're also interested in building directly into Rancho Cucamonga. So there is a lot of work we do together with Brightline on making sure those connections can happen and can work. And we have been good public stewards with them on supporting their efforts to make sure they have access to low-cost financing, which the state can help provide, and we have voted to do that. And they work closely with Caltrans because they are building their system within the median of a state highway. And Caltrans must approve that and provide agreements for that right of way. And so I got to say, I'm quite jealous of that approach. We are spending a lot of money buying private right of way in the Central Valley to build our system, and they were able to propose to build theirs in public right of way, which there's great benefits to that, particularly getting through the right of way process much more quickly. So it's a good partnership and an important partnership.
I would just add to that from a board's point of view is that we've always seen this project as ultimately a public financed and privately financed project. And this is one of those pieces. I mean, anyone who's been on the 10 trying to get from Los Angeles to Las Vegas knows that that's a lucrative piece of this puzzle, which is that transit line, right? And obviously we have someone who's very interested in developing that route and making a fairly nice profit on that. And so transit can be something that business and our finance world is willing to invest in. So it's important for us to be partners with them because that is the vision going forward, both private and public money.
Wonderful. I think we have time for one final question. So the last one that came in was asking for just a quick explanation. In the last business plan, we talked about our work with the San Joaquins and partnership with the San Joaquins. Can you guys speak to that a little bit, and interoperability and how we would be utilizing the system and they would be utilizing the system?
Well, I'll certainly talk about the proposal that we brought to the board, and we'll articulate further as we go ahead in the days to come. And look, one of the objectives that certainly I wanted to bring to the authority when I came here and wanted to talk to the board about, I must say our board has been very responsive to this, is to really achieve a couple of important things. One is, advance the work in a very methodical and very aggressive way, where we're clear about what we're doing. And the idea, I worry and have worried that electrified high-speed rail is too abstract to people. So when I came here, I wanted to engage with the board on, how do we get those environmental documents really done so we can be very clear on what it is we're doing. And I'm happy to report that, in the last year, we've completed 2 of those environmental segments now completely done on the environmental side, but both the state and federal review process. We put 4 more documents on the streets for 4 additional segments in 2020. We'll wrap those up in 2021, and we'll be down to the last 2 segments to complete in 2022. So we will get this all environmentally cleared. And that is a very good way for the communities to understand that we're serious about this. We're coming. We're gonna advance this work, and the board has taken tough votes on identifying preferred alternatives, getting those rods certified so we can advance the work. And then in the valley, with respect to the San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority, look, we think it makes some sense to partner with somebody to provide an interim service on the structures we are building. And so what we're proposing in the valley is once we get the tracks laid, electrified, and we're connecting, Merced to Bakersfield, that we have an interim operator who can use those assets. So they're not built and just sitting there, but let's put them into use. Let's have Californians see, touch, feel, and experience high-speed rail as we collectively work to expand the service and the construction work beyond the valley, ultimately to the Bay Area to connect our valley-to-valley service, and in northern LA County, and ultimately deeper into LA County, going south of Bakersfield. So I see a 2-track thing here. I see an interim service that we work closely with SJJPA on, that connects in Merced to ACE to the Bay Area, and San Joaquin's both to the Bay Area and Sacramento. And in Bakersfield, we work for expanded services south of Bakersfield into the LA Basin until we can expand those services, or we can expand our rail line beyond the valley into those areas as well, which will take more funding, but we can get a lot of that pre-construction work done and then work to find funding. So that's how I see it, and we're entering agreements with SJJPA on what that can look like.
Thank you so much. And it is now 2 o'clock, and I know everyone has very busy days, and for the students on the call, you likely have other classes to attend, so we want to be mindful of everyone's time. I want to thank Nancy again for your time today, and Brian again for your time. Keelan for taking some time out of GoBiz schedule to help us out, and of course to Augie and Jacqueline for their hard work in kicking this off. And we look forward to partnership with everyone in the days, weeks, and months ahead. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Great job. Thank you.